You know that feeling in an argument? The one where you're just desperate to drop the mic? You want to say that one final, crushing sentence that shuts everything down? The ultimate clincher. There's a seductive kind of power in being the one who ends the conversation.
Oh, absolutely. It's the desire to be the harf aakhir, the final word, the authority that cannot be questioned.
Exactly. But what if that desire isn't a sign of strength? What if needing to be the final word is actually a symptom of a deep, rot from the inside kind of sickness? Today, we're looking at 4 lines of Urdu poetry that completely dismantle our obsession with power and authority. It's a short poem, but man, does it pack a punch. I'm Jake.
And I'm Rachel, and today we're dissecting a piece by the poet Mustafa Sajjad Haider. It's a work that masquerades as a prayer, but cuts like a scalpel.
This poem is fascinating because on the surface, it uses this very flowery, almost reverent language. But the moment you scratch the paint, you realize it's satire. It's actually a scathing critique of leadership and ego.
Right, and to understand it, we have to look at the title and the first line, which contains that phrase I mentioned, harf aakhir. The poem opens with harf aakhir hua kare koi.
So let's break that down. Harf means letter or word. Aakhir means last or final. So harf aakhir is the final word. In Urdu literature, this usually implies an absolute truth, a divine decree, or an unchallengeable decision.
Exactly. If a leader says, my word is harf aakhir, they are saying, discussion over, I am the law. Now the poet writes, harf aakhir hua kare koi. Roughly translated, it means, let someone be the final word.
And if you read that straight, without the sarcastic tone, it sounds like he's wishing for a strong leader, right? Like, oh, let there be someone who is decisive.
Precisely, but that's the trap. This is satire. He's not saying, we need a strong man. He's saying it with a shrug. Let them be the final word. Let them sit on their high horse and think they are gods. It's a dismissal. He's highlighting the absurdity of a human being thinking they can claim absolute authority.
It's like when someone is ranting about how important they are, and you just go, okay, sure, you're the boss. You aren't agreeing with them, you're highlighting their arrogance by letting them sit in it. But then the poet immediately pivots to why they want this power. The second line is where it gets psychological. He says, apni dukh ki dawa kare koi.
Translation, let someone cure their own pain, or let them treat their own sickness.
This is the line that stopped me in my tracks, because usually we look at authoritarian leaders or just power-hungry people in our offices, and we think they're the ones with the control. They're the ones inflicting pain on us. But Haider is flipping the script. He's saying they are the patients.
It's a brilliant inversion. The duke, or pain here, isn't a physical flu. It's the pathology of power hunger. Think about the psychology of a narcissist or a tyrant. They are constantly insecure, constantly fighting to maintain dominance. Is a miserable existence. They are sick with ambition.
So when the poet says, let them cure their own sickness, he's implying that their desire to be the final word is actually a symptom. It's a coping mechanism for their own internal brokenness.
Exactly. And there's a biting sarcasm there too. It's like saying, physician, heal thyself. Before you try to fix society or rule over us, maybe you should fix whatever hole in your soul makes you need to control everyone else.
That reminds me of some of the psychological research on power addiction. You know, people who seek power are often trying to compensate for deep-seated feelings of inferiority. They aren't trying to lead, they're trying to self-medicate.
Right, and the poet is saying, go do that. Go take your medicine, but don't make your sickness our problem. And that leads us perfectly into the second half of the poem, where he shifts the focus from the sick leader to the rest of us. The third line is, Dushmani se najat sab mango.
Everyone ask for deliverance from enmity. Now, najat is a heavy word, right? It's not just stop fighting.
No, najat is theological. It means salvation, liberation, escape. It implies that enmity, dushmani, isn't just a bad habit, it's a cage. It's a trap that we are all stuck in.
If the first half of the poem was about the big leader up on the pedestal, this line feels like it's addressing the crowd looking up at him. Like, why are we playing this game?
Yes, he's suggesting that as long as we are trapped in cycles of enmity, we are vulnerable to those harf aakhir types. The tyrants thrive on our division. So the poet is telling the collective, pray to be saved from your hatred. That's the real prayer here.
And that sets up the final line, the resolution. Dosti ki dua kare koi.
Let someone pray for friendship. Simple, right? But in the context of the previous lines, it's revolutionary.
How so? Because friendship can sound a bit soft, like a greeting card.
In Urdu poetry, words like dosti and ishq often carry a much heavier, almost political weight. Here, dosti is presented as the antidote to the harf aakhir. The authoritarian wants the final word, which ends the conversation. Friendship is the conversation. It's an ongoing dialogue. It requires two people to be equals.
Oh, I like that. So the final word is a monologue, friendship is a dialogue.
Exactly. If you are my friend, I cannot dominate you completely. I have to listen to you. So praying for friendship is actually a subversion of power. It's a rejection of the hierarchy that the sick leader relies on.
It's interesting how he frames it as a dua, a prayer. Dosti ki dua kare koi. Let someone pray for friendship. Why a prayer? Why not just go make friends?
I think it acknowledges the difficulty. In a world structured around power and enmity, true friendship, true solidarity is a miracle. It's something you have to strive for spiritually. It's not the default state of a broken society.
So if we zoom out and look at the whole poem, we have this arc. We start with the satirical image of the arrogant leader. We diagnose him as sick. We realize our own trap is enmity and the way out is friendship.
And notice the progression of the actors in the poem. The first two lines are about koi, someone, the leader. Let him be the last word. Let him cure himself. It's distinct from us. But the third line brings in sub, everyone. Dushmani se najat, sub mongo. The solution requires the collective.
That is a crucial distinction. The problem is individual ego. The solution is collective humility.
Spot on, and this fits so well into the broader tradition of Urdu poetry. Think about poets like Faiz Ahmed Faiz or Habib Jalib. They constantly wrestled with authority, but where Jalib might scream at the dictator directly, Mustafa Sajjad Haider is taking a more philosophical route here. He's not just saying, down with the king, he's asking, why does the king need to be king, and why do we let him?
It's treating the political situation as a spiritual or psychological crisis. I want to go back to the harf-e-aakhir concept for a second. We did a quick search on this term before the show, and it's really commonly used to mean the ultimatum, like in a negotiation.
Yes, it's the shutdown mechanism, and in a way, claiming to be the harf-e-aakhir is an attempt to play God. In theology, only the divine has the final say, so for a human to claim it, that is the height of hubris. That's the sickness the poet is talking about.
It's funny, looking at the hints provided with the text, the poet suggests that if someone is a true well-wisher of humanity, they shouldn't be praying for power, they should be praying for friendship. It creates this binary. You are either a power seeker or a friend seeker. You can't be both.
You really can't. Power requires distance. Friendship requires intimacy. You cannot control someone you are truly intimate with in that way. You have to be vulnerable. And the harf-e-aakhir, the man who has the last word, can never be vulnerable. That's why he's sick. That's why he's in pain.
The isolation of the autocrat.
Exactly. He ends up alone in an empty room, shouting the final word to nobody.
So what's the takeaway for us? I mean, most of us aren't dictators running a country, but we all have these dynamics in our lives.
I think the takeaway is to watch out for that impulse in ourselves to have the final word. To recognize that when we feel that desperate need to be right, to dominate the conversation, to shut down the other person, that is a sickness. That is our own duk, pain showing.
And the cure isn't to win the argument. The cure is to seek connection, to prioritize the relationship over the victory.
Right, to pray for dosti instead of gulba, because in the end, the last word is final. It's dead. It stops the flow of life. But friendship keeps the story going.
It's a beautiful thought that maybe the strongest thing you can do isn't to end the sentence, but to leave it open-ended so someone else can add to it.
Beautifully put.
This poem by Mustafa Sajjad Haider is only 4 lines long, but we've just spent 15 minutes unpacking the entire psychology of human power dynamics. It really shows the density of Urdu poetry. Every word is a trapdoor into a deeper room.
And that's why we read it, to find the cure for our own little sicknesses.
Absolutely. Well, that's the final word from us. Or, wait, no, let's not call it that.
Let's call it the start of a conversation.
There we go. If you have a friend who always needs to win the argument, maybe send this episode their way. Gently, of course.